Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey guys, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm excited to have Dr. Ken Berry on our show again. He was on the show last year as I met him on Jimmy Moore's, our low carb cruise we did, a year ago, 2019. And just really, I always love his YouTube videos. He's always filled with education and entertainment at the same time. And if you don't know about Dr. Ken Berry, I would advise you to go watch his YouTube channel, as he has these amazing, informative, short videos that make it easy for you to understand. So I'll put all the links in the show notes. And we're going to talk about how to burn fat today. How do we get healthy? How do we improve the aging process and figure out how to keep it simple? But also just ways in our crazy world right now that we can really improve our immune system and build up our resiliency. So let's hear what Dr. Ken Berry has to say for us today. Okay, everybody, I'm excited to have Dr. Berry on my show today. We had, I think, over a year ago after the low carb cruise, and wanted to bring on the expert of how to keep things simple, how to burn fat and get healthy and improve the aging process, since you are the doctor that's expert in this area and insulin resistance and all that stuff to keep us healthy. So thank you for making time for us.
It's a pleasure to be back with you again, Deb.
So you've been busy. You're always busy. When I have a child, a newborn, 1-year-old. How old is your daughter?
Beckett is 15 months old now and doing great. He's running around being a crazy young boy every day.
Yeah, that keeps you guys busy even more so, but good entertainment when you're stuck at home a little bit more often this past year, right?
Definitely.
Good. So what is the past year? We've been really more on a mission. I think all of us in our world trying to pay it forward that really to get healthy isn't just staying at home wearing a face mask and isolating yourself from the world, but we really have another part of it that no one's really telling us except for podcasts and YouTube channels as yourself. But how do we get ourselves healthy? For starting, is it, a lot of the links to viruses that we're experiencing in our world is insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. So what have you found over the past year of your experiences and your studying research and figuring out what we could do?
Well, it's been a very interesting time to be in this space. I made my first video about the virus in, I think, January the 24th, when it wasn't even in the U.S. yet. I'd just been watching the international media, and I was pretty spooked by it at that point. But so I really quit talking about it because that video got demonetized, and immediately, it's like, oh, you're going against the guidelines. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just sit back and just watch this unfold. The funny thing about this is that they're really wanting to talk about medications, and they really want to talk about vaccines, and they're really, really wanting to talk about curtailing normal human activities. But what they're not wanting to talk about at all at the national and definitely not at the global level is the huge volume of research that shows without doubt that being metabolically unwell makes you more susceptible to any infection, whether it's viral, bacterial, or fungal. If you have a chronically high blood sugar, if you have a chronically high insulin level, if you're overweight, if you have pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, any of these things, you are more susceptible to infection. But I don't know that a single time have I heard that mentioned on a national stage or an international stage. They just refuse to talk about that. And this is not a hypothesis. This is not a theory. This is science that's been around for 100 years. The more metabolically unwell you are, the more apt you are to catch any infection, including the virus that shall not be named.
Yeah. Well, that's what I just feel like, we keep talking about this over a year now, or since it's January now. So it's been a year, and just really what we can do to help people give these tools that are simple, inexpensive, or even free that they can do to take ownership of their own health, to get healthy, to improve their immune system resiliency. We've been saying it over a year, but it's just like, how do we get that message out to mainstream? Because it's, just us all teaming up doing our podcasting and YouTube videos and making sure you don't get kicked off saying the wrong words. But it's simple. But why do you think it's just because the pharmaceutical and government people, politicians being paid by different companies, that we don't ever hear the truth?
No, I don't know. You tell me, what do you think it is? Why, with this huge established volume of scientific literature, why would that be ignored? And there are some people out there who say, well, you can't get a patent on keto or carnivore, can't get a patent on low carb, but you can get a patent on a new antiviral. Okay. Some people say, well, you can't make billions of dollars off of telling people to eat the proper human diet, but you can make billions of dollars off a new vaccine. Okay. Some people say, well, you can't really pay millions of dollars for a television commercial, which is what the television news, that's their operating budget is the commercials, right?
Yeah.
You can't really you can't pay $10 million to advertise, hey, eat lots of meat and a little bit of veg. Nobody's going to pay $10 million for that commercial. So you just don't see it in the commercials, but then also you don't hear it on the news. Because just imagine if you're a news producer and all of your reporters were talking about, hey, it looks like if you'll just eat a low carb diet, you can strengthen your immune system back to as strong as it could ever possibly be. If every news article was talking about that, I would imagine that Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Kellogg's and Kraft and Post and General Mills, they would have a problem sponsoring that news. They would say, dude, if you're going to keep talking bad-mouthing Frosted Flakes or, Pepsi or Dr. Pepper, I'm just going to stop advertising on your channel.
Yeah.
We would hope that our journalists have high standards and high morals and great ethics. But in the end, it's hard to have high morals and good ethics if you're not getting the electric bill paid. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for them to talk about some of these things and worry about losing sponsorship. And I understand that they're kind of stuck in the middle. And that's why I don't even try to approach that platform. I don't even try to talk to the international or the national regulatory bodies and people who come out with the guidelines. I just try to talk to normal people, because I don't care what guidelines there are. If I've talked everybody into ignoring them, then they're not really having much of an effect, are they?
Mm-mm. Yeah, it just seems like, I'm in a try to keep positive outlook, but the last couple of days is like, are we ever going to get out of this? Because they're depending all their research on a vaccine versus looking at the research of how you can actually have good response or negative response to the virus as we are experiencing. So it's just frustrating. That's like, you can't really win. But what we can do is what I'm trying to do is just podcast every week and blog and just try to share information every week. I'm putting vitamin D research on my Facebook page. It's like, does everyone get it yet? Vitamin D is shown. And just because like now we're living North San Diego, Southern California, the virus is going all over the place. But just because you're sunny weather doesn't mean you're getting vitamin D. So there's so many issues to how you actually increase your vitamin D from the sun. It doesn't happen when you're covered in clothing. So
yeah, I think that eating foods that are rich in vitamin D is a very wise thing to do. I think eating foods that are rich in zinc is a very wise thing to do. If you can't eat enough food to keep your levels optimum, then consider a good, pure supplement. I think those are very wise things to do. Now, I'm obviously not telling people not to follow therapeutic or social guidelines. I mean, we kind of got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is nobody's going to make $1 billion promoting vitamin D or zinc or eating a proper human diet. Therefore, you're probably not going to hear about that at the national or international level. It's sad, but it's absolutely true. And it also, that's the same thing you see when you're talking about any social issue, right?
Yeah.
Is you don't try to change the minds of congressmen and senators. You just fix your own life and move on. And I think that's what we should all do. I mean, we're going to have very little traction trying to get the USDA to change their mind about something. I think we've seen evidence of that recently. It's sad and it's disappointing, but don't let it depress you, because everybody listening to this, you have the power to improve the health of your family, and you have power to improve the health of your friends. And really, that's what it all boils down to, is your own health and your family and your friends. If you can make that part of your world a better place, then you've made the entire world a better place. And I think that should give people great hope and great motivation. Don't be depressed by what's happening at the top. Be motivated by what you can do at your level.
Yeah, so true. And I think it is paying it forward. Get this information that we share and in your YouTube channels and your lives, that you're really getting that message and pass it on to your family. Because I even talked to someone yesterday, I was swimming, and our swim coach didn't know anything about the vitamin D research. And I was like, how come, people that are out here and they're active and they're healthy and they still don't hear? It's like, how do we get that information out there? So let's go into nutrition, as you are really good at educating people and keeping it simple. How can we eat, as you said, to improve our immune system? So insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes is obviously an issue. So what are some things that we can do if people, maybe they don't know they have that? Like, so what are symptoms that people are struggling and that they can take some action, some steps?
Yeah. So it's quite simple. Any diet that causes you to have a large blood sugar spike after a meal, that weakens your immune system. This is well known, that you weaken the macrophage's ability to do its many, many jobs. You weaken it for several hours after one high carb meal. So, it's published. Multiple studies have shown this. Okay. Any diet that causes your insulin level to be chronically high is going to not only weaken your immune system, but also going to increase your risk of multiple chronic diseases. And so all you have to do is just remove all the things from your diet that are going to spike your blood sugar or cause you to have chronically high insulin levels. And by doing that, you're going to greatly strengthen your immune system and greatly reduce your risk of pretty much every chronic medical disease. By ensuring you're getting an adequate source of vitamin D and zinc in your diet, or taking a supplement if you can't, you're going to strengthen your immune system. Now, a lot of people get carried away with this advice, and they're like, oh, if you take mega doses of vitamin D or zinc or other things, you will become immune to this unnameable virus. But that's not true. Everyone's immune system has a 100% function. You can't go beyond 100% function. And so even if you're eating a proper human diet, you're going to catch an infection every now and then. That's just the nature of human life, right? What we're saying is, I don't want you to unnecessarily catch something, right? I don't want you to get an unnecessary infection that you could have prevented or avoided. Also, when you do get an infection with any virus, any bacteria, any fungus, I don't want you to have a terrible course of that illness, right? I want it to be very self-limited, just a few days, and then you recover quickly and you're back to good health again. Those are within everybody's reach, having those goals. But saying, oh, I'm going to be completely immune if I take this supplement or that supplement, that's going too far. And it's human nature to go too far if you're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
So just everybody remember, you have a 100% immune function. And if you're currently operating at 60% because you're eating a high carb, ultra processed diet, you're not getting enough vitamin D and zinc, you're eating way too many carbohydrates, that's why you're at 60%. Okay. And you can increase that back up to close to 100% function by eliminating those things, bad things from your diet, and including the good things in your diet. You can strengthen your immune system up to your 100% level.
And it goes the other way too. People think they're invincible if they have a mask on, that they think, okay, I'm totally safe if I just, stay 6 feet apart, or people
Right.
have their face mask and they think they're
Even
fine.
now they're saying that if you get the new thing that they're wanting to give you, I don't even want to say the V word. I'm afraid it'll get you a strike. But if you get that, you still should wear your mask and socially distance. And at that point, you're like, wait, what?
What's the point?
What? But I think that reveals how little confidence and faith they have in the V word that we won't say, that they're telling you, well, you don't get to change any of your behavior. You got to keep doing all this other stuff, even if you get that.
Yeah.
What in the world does that mean? I mean, because in years past, when you got the flu shot, nobody said, oh, you still have to, stay home and wear a mask and not go around your grandmother. Nobody's ever said that before. And let's not talk about this current virus too much. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
But it's beyond me. And so even their guidelines and their recommendations, they flip-flop themselves multiple times. Wear a mask don't help. Wear a mask don't, it's just back and forth. And so I think any rational, common sense person watching this has basically decided, I think it's quite possible they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And so what I would say is you can't have any effect over what's going to be on the evening news or in Time or Newsweek or on CNN or Fox. You can't have any effect on that. But what you can have an effect on is moving your current immune strength from 70% up to closer to 100%. You're actually in 100% control of that. And then your immediate family and your extended family and your friends and your loved ones, you can have an effect on their life starting today by running your mouth, basically, by living by example. And by running your mouth, you can actually move their immune system back up towards perfect function.
So what are some foods that you're saying, bad foods, good foods? So what should, definite foods that we should be avoiding if people haven't switched to a low carb lifestyle? They're listening, maybe just getting started. It's a new year. They're finally like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. So if you want to start a low carb, a ketogenic, a ketovore, or a carnivore diet, you start with step number 1, which is removing all sugar from your diet, whether it's added sugar or whether it's natural sugar. Your body cannot tell the difference between the high fructose corn syrup in Coca-Cola or the fructose and glucose in orange juice. Your body can't tell the difference. So stop everything that has sugar as an added ingredient, and stop all natural foods that are very high in natural sugars. Those are going to spike your blood sugar, which raises your insulin, which does all the things we talked about earlier. Step number 2 is to remove all grains from your diet, all of them. No grain is an optimizing food for humans. Grains are great for keeping you from starving to death, no doubt, yeah. But if you're trying to optimize your immune health and your mental health and your physical health, grains do not play a role in that. So remove all of them, anything made from grains, whole grains, processed grains, it doesn't matter, because also grains ultimately turn into sugar, right? So we're right back to rule number 1, get rid of sugar. Step number 3 is to remove all vegetable oils from your diet. Use only animal fat to cook with. Also maybe olive oil, if you can get pure unadulterated olive oil and you're sure of that. Maybe avocado oil, if you can get it pure and unadulterated, which seems to be a problem at the supermarket. Maybe coconut oil, if you can get it pure and unadulterated. But definitely any animal fat is an ancestrally appropriate fat. It's full of good, healthy, saturated fat, and it's not too high in the polyunsaturated fatty acids, which seem to lead to inflammation. Anytime you have chronic inflammation in your body, you are confusing your immune system with that chronic inflammation. And the immune system can wind up attacking parts of you that it shouldn't attack. Right? That's what autoimmune disease is. That's what it is. And so if you're confusing your immune system with lots of sugar and lots of grains and lots of inflammatory things, then it's going to not be able to fight off infections from the outside. And it may very well start to attack parts of your body that it should not attack. That's the 3 best steps. And then step 4 would be start eating lots of fatty meat. That is an ancestrally appropriate food that we've been eating ever since we've been on this planet. This is not a new fad. This is not a new trend. Carnivore is not new. It's hundreds of thousands of years old. So with those 4 steps, everybody listening to this can start to improve their immune system function and start to reduce chronic inflammation in their body and start to burn unnecessarily stored fat in their body.
Yeah. So the chronic inflammation is coming from what we're eating, as well as how we're eating, and stress. And so it is working on getting the right foods that are kind of healing our gut, and therapeutic foods, nutritional therapy, so we can improve our gut health, because that's where we're looking at creating leaky gut from those irritable foods that are, I was looking at why things happen and go backwards from that. So why should we take out grains? Why are sugars? What are they really doing? People want to go a little deeper to understand, because I think people need to understand why sometimes to be motivated to make those choices.
Sure. And so anytime you're eating an inflammatory food, and all grains are inflammatory to the human gut, this has been shown in multiple studies. Now, you may not notice the inflammation. You might notice it, but it's not coming from your gut. Many people eating grains, drinking low-fat dairy, low-fat milk, they'll have joint pain or they'll have skin issues. And that's coming from the inflammation in the gut. That's coming from the loosening of the tight junctions between the endothelial cells in the small intestine. And then large protein molecules are actually able to get into the bloodstream by an inappropriate route. They're able to go between the cells instead of going through the cell membrane like they're supposed to, being properly packaged and then going out into the bloodstream. They're actually slipping between the tight junction, which is loosened by this chronic gut inflammation. And so many skin problems, joint problems, and even it looks like mental health issues come from this gut inflammation and this chink in the gut armor that's meant to protect us from all these inflammatory molecules. When you're eating inflammatory foods, the gut is no longer to protect you, either from an immune standpoint or from just a physical barrier standpoint. And I think that's the root problem with all of the autoimmune conditions and all of the chronic inflammation issues that humans suffer from.
Yeah, I know. I was just sharing some of your videos to clients that, just work on nutrition. One has gout off and on. The other person has a young child with autism. And then someone else, their 18-year-old son, they've been battling with epilepsy and having tons of seizures. So it's just interesting, doing research and getting information as people as yourself, videos to explain that. It's like, just first things first, let's work on what you're eating, how, when, and why. And it's how that impacts.
Anytime you talk about healing the gut or any of that, a lot of people, the human mind is such an interesting thing. And so instead of people focusing on what do I need to remove from my diet to heal my gut, they immediately start thinking about, well, what supplement should I take to heal my gut? What berry from the Himalayas or what root from Australia? What magical thing do I need to heal my gut? You got to understand, you got to go back a step. Your gut is inflamed and damaged because of what you're putting into your gut. You don't need a magical supplement from Siberia. You need to stop eating the things that are causing the inflammation and the damage in your gut. That's how you fix it. You caused it with your diet. You're going to fix it by improving your diet. And then a lot of people think, oh, well, I can eat anything I want. My body just magically changes it into good, fit, healthy human tissue. And nothing could be further from the truth. I made a video about autism recently, and there's actually important research that shows that up to 20% of boys with autism, and it may be in girls too, they just only study boys, they have a defect in the pathway that they're able to make carnitine. So carnitine is an amino acid that it's essential for the human brain to develop and function properly. Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily essential in that you have to eat it, right? Because the human body does have the pathway to make carnitine. But some of the up to 20% of boys with autism, they have a mess up in that pathway and they can't make carnitine. Mm-hmm. And so that is the reason they have autism. And so, and what that says to me is, well, what percentage of girls? We don't know. We haven't done the research. are all other boys able to make carnitine, or do they make just enough to limp by, but not enough to have optimal brain function? So my answer to that was to feed every baby, every child, meat and eggs and full fat cheese and butter, to make sure that they're getting enough carnitine in their diet, just in case they're not able to complete that carnitine production pathway, like up to 20% of boys with autism have, right?
Yeah.
Why would you not go out of your way to make sure that they're getting enough carnitine? But most babies and children, think about this, they are on a vegan diet, and it's accidental. The parents don't even think about, they're not vegan saying my child will only eat vegan. But let's think about, what's a toddler when they're weaning off the breast? God forbid, I hope they're on the breast. When they start to wean off, what do we give them? Rice cereal, fruit juice, peaches, green peas, right? Goldfish crackers, all the other little tidbits that Gerber loves to sell us. Have you heard me mention meat yet? No.
Not at all.
The average baby in the United States is eating a vegan diet unintentionally, because I don't know where we got this belief that babies, it meat's I don't know, that's an adult food. That's not for babies. Beckett, who's 15 months old now, the first solid food he had was the remnants off of a beef bone that I'd eaten the meat off the rib, and I gave him the bone, and he proceeded to suck all the cartilage and all the meat scraps and remnants. That was his first food. And so if Beckett was one of those 20% that can't make carnitine, he was getting carnitine from mother's milk, but then he weaned onto a diet rich in carnitine. So even if he is one of those kids that has that defect in his pathway, he's never going to develop autism, because he's got a great source of carnitine in his diet. He eats meat all the time. And I would tell parents, the first food you need to wean your baby off to is some kind of animal food. Egg yolks, meat. Baby, he loves chicken liver, he loves sardines, because he's never been exposed to the sweet food. So he doesn't even know what he's missing. He just knows that he loves bacon and sausage and scrambled eggs. And so he eats them all the time. And I think that's the way our ancestors did it. I think that's the way we need to go back to doing it, in order to stop these chronic medical diseases and this chronic inappropriate inflammation. Let's stop it before it ever starts. In our young ones.
So true. I know, and it's simple, but people are going by what like everything for athletes too. What are you supposed to eat as an athlete? Same thing as a baby. Where do you get your information from? Magazines with advertising on the other side of the page.
Gerber advertisements that masquerade as articles in parenting magazines. All of those articles are sponsored by the advertisers. And if Parent Magazine started posting 3 or 4 articles every month about how eating lots of meat is good for your babies, and you shouldn't give your babies goldfish crackers and all the little crunchy tidbits that Gerber sells, guess what Gerber would do immediately? They would pull all their advertising, and Parent Magazine would go out of business. And so Parent Magazine's not going to do that.
I see trend in the advertising for first part of our conversation today, but also going to another question, looking at gout, as I talked about that, gout on your video, you're saying it isn't meat related, because a lot of people I think suffer from gout from what the traditional information says, too much meat and shellfish, but you said different in your video.
Yeah, well, and so on the thumbnail for my YouTube video about gout is an old woodcut from hundreds of years ago. And the reason I put that old woodcut as part of the thumbnail is I want people to look at that. And this was hundreds of years ago. They knew exactly what caused gout. It's a big fat man, and he's got gray hair, he's older, and he's sitting at his table, and he's drinking wine, and he's eating fruit. And that's literally, and then the gout dragon is chewing on his foot joint. And he literally has every pre-existing thing that increases your risk of gout. He's an older man, and he's overweight. And that's not everybody who has gout, but that's the majority of people who have gout. And he's drinking alcohol, and he's eating lots of fructose. That is what causes gout. That picture says it all.
Yeah.
That was carved hundreds of years ago. It has nothing to do with eating meat. It has nothing to do with the high purine diet. It's all about, if you're overweight, you're at high risk. If you're older, you're at high risk. If you're eating lots of fructose containing foods, you're at higher risk. And if you're drinking lots of alcohol, you're at higher risk. And when you remove all those things from your environment and your diet, even though you may have suffered from multiple gout attacks in the past, you're going to have less severe gout attacks, and you're going to have less frequent gout attacks. And we've had hundreds of people who are gout sufferers reach out to us on social media and say, hey, ever since I've been ketovore or ever since I've been carnivore, I haven't had a gout attack in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I don't take my medicine anymore, and I just never have gout attacks. And it's because they reversed their obesity, and they stopped drinking alcohol, and they got rid of all the sugars out of their diet, including fructose from fruit juices and fruits out of their diet. And they just don't have gout anymore. That's so powerful, right? Yeah. And so the word is spreading. We are having an effect. It's just, it's not a worldwide effect that we'd like for it to be. We'd like to save the world, but all we can do is just save our small corner of the world, and we have to be content with that.
Yeah, it's so true. So I know just a couple other questions, we're going to run out of time, but the gut health we talked about a little bit, but it's also the liver and the gallbladder and bile flow. I think is so essential to really help, because we want to look at the detoxification phase 1 and 2, getting our drainage pathways working phase 3. And I think that's a lot of things people don't ever hear about. They don't realize, all the toxins in our environment, but also the foods we're eating and pharmaceutical drugs and everything else that accumulates and all the other jobs your liver already does, how important liver health is. Everyone's always talking about, eating clean food, but what about taking care of our liver and making sure we have good bile flow?
Yeah. And I think the primary way to take good care of your liver, the primary way is by eating a proper human diet, right? I think that's the majority of it. So, and then, there are a lot of gurus out there trying to sell you a liver cleanse. Again, we've got this upside down way of thinking about stuff. Oh, you need this liver cleanse. You need these liver capsules. You need this, you need this product. No, you don't need any of that. No, all that's a waste of money. You just need to eat a proper human diet. That's going to give you 80% of the benefit right there. And then trying to eliminate toxins from your environment. I think that's very important. Trying to never eat or drink anything above room temperature in a plastic container. Yeah. Never letting hot food touch plastic or hot liquid touch plastic and then consuming that. I think that's very, very important for liver health and overall health. Obviously trying to stay away from any heavy metal toxins is a huge thing. Don't poison your body. Yes. Yeah. Very important concept, right? So I think people need to understand that the baseline for a human is that the liver functions properly and the kidneys function properly. That's not, there's nothing you have to add to your system to encourage proper liver function and proper kidney function. If you're eating a proper human diet and not poisoning your body, they're just going to work. That's how they're designed. They're going to work optimally if you don't poison your system with improper food or with toxins or plastics or other things. So you don't have to go out of your way to attain optimal liver function. You just have to stop eating the wrong foods and stop poisoning your body. And your liver it's got this. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. But I think working north is how people eat. It's getting people to switch to keto carnivore type of diet that works right for their body. But it's how people eat is so important, to sit, focus, be in that parasympathetic state, not rushing and doing 50 things at once or eating on the go. Because even if you're eating good sources of animal meat and eating good vegetables, but rushing and not chewing your food probably causes some dysfunction of digestion from the top down.
Maybe.
No.
Maybe.
It just seems like so many people are so stressed when they eat, they don't have proper digestion, if that's, what they're eating, but how they're eating it.
Well, and what the argument that I would put to that is, let's think about our ancestors. Did, 100,000 years ago, did they sit down with a small red plate and turn off the television and have no stress? Or were they sneaking up on a kill that lions had killed and literally running the lions off with sticks and stuff, and then eating as quickly as they could, smashing the skull to get the brain, breaking up the bones to get the marrow, and then getting the hell out of there as quickly as they could. I think
point.
probably human beings have eaten under stress for hundreds of thousands of years. And so that might matter a little, but I think you're probably getting off into the 1% solutions at that point, and so I really love focusing. Let's focus on what's going to give you 90% of the benefit.
Yep.
And I actually made a YouTube video, but all the advice out there, chew each bite 30 times, use a small plate, use a red plate, turn off the TV, meditate, all this stuff. I think that's well-meaning, but I think that's probably entirely all it encourages people to do is ignore the important things and focus on, I got to find some red plates at Target that are small. That's ridiculous. That literally you're spending all your time thinking about something that might matter 1%. Let's focus on the 80 or 90% and let that other stuff kind of take care of itself.
That's so true. Good point. Very valid. I agree. So it is, keeping it simple. We review the tips that in the show notes, so type everything up, but just, the tips you've shared before, and you have multiple videos on it, and you guys are doing YouTube once a week and a Facebook Live, or what are you and Nisha doing?
Yeah, we do a Facebook, YouTube Live, also live on Twitter every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central.
Wow.
And then I make 2 to 3 new YouTube videos on my channel every week. And Nisha makes 2 or 3 new YouTube videos on her channel every week. And I try to keep my channel just education, just talking head, like, let me explain this to you, right? Like it was a doctor's appointment and you were my patient and we were talking one-on-one. Whereas Nisha, she does what we eat in a day. So if anybody wants to see what I eat, go check out Nisha's channel. It just search for Nisha Loves It. And she does what we eat in a day video, including what Beckett, who's, he started eating meat when he was 5.5 months old. And still this morning he had bacon and eggs for breakfast. And so if you want to see what I truly eat in a day, if you want to see my goofy side, go check out Nisha's YouTube channel, because she puts all that stuff. She also does lifestyle and fashion and all that, but you can just look for the what we eat in a day videos. If you want to see, no bullshit, what does Dr. Berry really eat? It's on her channel.
Good. Well, we'll put that all in there. I'm sure most people already watch it because you guys have like million followers. A lot. And anything coming up this year? Are you going to be able to do the low carb cruise still in May?
Yeah, I think we're going to try to do the low carb cruise in May. We're committed if it is allowed to happen. And then also in late February, I'm going to Costa Rica to film a television series called Reversed, about reversing type 2 diabetes with diet and lifestyle. And I know Dr. Jason Fung's involved, Dr. Lori Shimmick is involved, and several other people in the low carb and fasting space are involved. And we're basically going to take a group of type 2 diabetics down to Costa Rica. I'm not sure when we had to go there, but I'm not arguing about it. It's fine. And we're just going to basically happen to them and say, hey, type 2 diabetes is really carbohydrate toxicity syndrome. That's what it is. Yeah. That's it. You can fix this. You can reverse it and get off all your medicines if you'll do what we say. And so that's what this is season 2 of Reverse. There's already a season 1. And so I'm excited to get the hell out of the country for 10 days and film this video.
Yeah, it's funny. Why is it you don't know why it's in Costa Rica? That's just where they picked.
Whatever. Hey, I'm happy with that. That's fine, but I think probably we could have done it here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, well, we'll let you get going, and we thank you for everything you're doing and all the videos, because that is so much work doing one. I can't believe you do 2 to 3 a week. That's good for you, because you do all the research.
My production value is not that high. Like, there's not special effects. But what I'm trying to do is just talk to one person and say, hey, you actually can fix this problem, and here's how you do it.
Yeah, keep it simple. You just one person at a time. So thank you. Keep up that work.
Absolutely. I'll never stop. Thanks so much for having me. Good to see you again.
Okay. See you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.